Hey everybody, JC here. Today I wanted to talk about Japanese candlesticks. And there's a lot of different ways to look at them, but I think the most important thing that we want to recognize is that we're getting a lot of information from them. I mean, in a line chart, you're getting closing prices, which I always argue is the most important price. In bar charts, you're getting a little bit more information, right? You're getting the open, the high, low, close. And then in the candlestick charts, you're getting all of that, but you're really getting more of an intraday feel, or for a weekly chart, more of an intra-week feel. So I think they're really valuable. We use them for monthly charts too. So today I want to talk a little bit about how I use them personally, because listen, they all do it in different ways. I've seen Bloomberg use it one way, stockcharts.com, for example, using another, and I've seen a variety of different methods and whatnot. I'm going to show you today how we use it, and I think it's really simple, and we get a lot of information from it. So the first thing that I want to make clear is really like what they mean. You see these like rectangles, and you see like all the lines and colors and everything, but like let's really understand what they mean. So you have two different parts of a Japanese candlestick. You have the real body, and you also have the shadows, or the wicks, if you will, right? If it's a candle, it's going to have a wick at the top. It can be called shadows, whatever it is, but it's whatever is outside of the real body. The real body represents the difference between the open and the close. So if the real body is hollow, that means that the close was above the open. If the real body is closed, if it's a filled candlestick, that means that the close was below the open. The candlestick essentially melted, right? Outside of the real bodies, you're going to have the shadow, or the wicks, right? And those are the little sticks that are above and below the real bodies. And those are essentially the intraday or intra-period, right? Because if we're looking at a weekly chart, it would be intra-week, highs and lows that did not fit within the open and the closing price. So here's just a closer look at a couple of examples. In the first one, you essentially see a candlestick that melted, right? So at some point, it traded above the open, but throughout the day, it went lower and closed near the lows of the day. That's what the first one represents. The second one is actually the opposite. The second one is showing us that during that period, sure, prices fell below the open, but ultimately rallied and closed near the highs for that period. Then the last one here, the third one, you can see that throughout the session, throughout the week, throughout the month, whatever we're talking about, rallied and then ultimately sold off and then closed not only back near the open, but even below that and closed near the lows. So the second thing that I'd like to introduce is the color scheme that we use for our candlesticks. So let's reiterate, when we're talking about hollow and filled candlesticks, it just represents the difference between the open and the close. But when we're looking at green candlesticks and red candlesticks, that represents where the price is closed relative to the prior close. So it has nothing to do with what it did intraday, but where it is relative to the previous day or previous week or whatever time period where that's in question. One thing that I think gets confusing sometimes is when you see green candles and red candles and, you think that that represents something that it did during the day. Let's just reiterate that's versus the prior period, while the filled candlesticks and the hollow candlesticks really represent what they did intraday. So we can have, and we often see it, a red hollow candlestick, right? So in other words, a lot of times you'll see a gap down and then it'll rally throughout the session, but still close below the prior close. We also have green filled candlesticks, right? Where it's essentially the opposite. You'll get a gap up on that day or that week, and then throughout the session, it melts and trades lower, but still closes above the prior close. I think Japanese candlesticks are a really valuable tool. So this is sort of a little table that I like to keep, sort of a shortcut, just so that you can remember what should be green, what should be hollow, what should be filled, right? All of those things. And this is how we look at them, right? This is JC style or whatever it is. I've learned it from my predecessors. I didn't make any of this stuff up, but there are a lot of different ways that I've seen people use these Japanese candlesticks. And I wanted to share with you today the way that we look at them. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me at All Star Charts on Twitter, StockTwits, and Instagram. Thanks.